皆様お待たせいたしました。それではただいまより専門家世界大会ワークショップ7を開始いたします。モデレーターはオーストラリアンインスティテュートヘルス&セーフティのマリリン・ハブナー先生です。Now we'll start World Assembly Workshop 7. The moderator is Dr. Marilyn Hubner from Australian Institute of Health and Safety. Would you please start?
Thank you. Welcome to this workshop. We're going to be talking today about how the occupational health and safety profession is transforming from a compliance base into an innovation and creative base. But we're not just gathered here for a workshop, we're convening for a moment that really matters. We are potentially standing at the edge of a profound transformation of our industry. The world of work is shifting at a pace that challenges even the most seasoned professionals. Global disruptions, accelerating technologies, evolving employment models, and unfamiliar risk landscapes are no longer on the horizon, they're right here in front of us. And yet, through all of this change, one thing remains unwavering: our collective commitment to keeping people safe, healthy, and well. The occupational health and safety profession has always been a cornerstone of that promise, but now the question is how we fulfill it, and we need to reinvent ourselves because it's a necessity, and we need to reimagine ourselves with the use of technology and innovation. No longer are we solely compliance officers or site safety officers or advisors. We are becoming culture builders, strategists, connectors, stewards of sustainability and resilience. Across the globe, OSH professionals are expanding their impact, taking on responsibilities in environmental protection, workplace well-being, security, quality insurance, environment, and even faculty and organisational design. We are seeking a shift from rules to relationships, from enforcement to engagement, from checklists to culture. Our theme for this workshop today is embedding the culture of safety beyond compliance. We're going to be looking how we as a profession can move beyond and work with our partners in the workplace. We're going to look at the transition that includes us expanding into different paradigms through flexible work arrangements or new policy approaches or an intensified demand for research to address the knowledge gaps that we have. This workshop asks us to meet that moment with clarity, courage, and collaboration. We will be hoping that you'll have questions for our panel today, so I do encourage you to think about things and perhaps write down on paper or on your phone if you come up with a question that you'd like to ask the panel. So today we're going to explore a few different things. We're going to look at what skills we need to lead in this new era of OHS. We're going to look at interdisciplinary and collaboration that will define the next frontier of workplace safety. We're going to talk about how technology, climate change, and fluid work arrangements are rewriting the risk narrative, and how we, together as a profession, can navigate this transformation, not only effectively, but sustainably. Hope you got that. But this is more about just the reaction to change. It's actually about shaping it. We've seen some change in the last few years, and we started to shape it, and now we need to finish off our mould to see what our profession is going to look for in the future. We're not doing it alone, though. We can see from this wonderful site today and these wonderful sessions that this one tiny session is a part of something bigger, something global. And it's going to culminate in a declaration or a roadmap for OSH professionals around the world. This is going to be a bold, unified statement about what must be done in the years ahead to keep pace, to close the gaps and elevate the very purpose of our profession. So I invite you all 10 of you, to lean in with open minds, critical questions, and creative thinking. And I want you to challenge the assumptions, explore the possibilities, and most of all, I want you to see yourselves not just as participants in a workshop, but as co-authors of our profession's future. Let's shape a legacy here today that prepares us for the next generation to thrive in. I'm going to introduce now some of our speakers. We're going to start off with one with a very exciting practical case study for us to start thinking about. Let's find my right place here. So Lisa Maguire is a visionary leader in occupational health and safety with over 17 years of executive experience, advancing safety leadership, education, and systems innovation. She founded the Manufacturing Safety Alliance of BC, which is British Columbia, for those that don't know, in Canada, to lead injury prevention and manufacturing. She's also founded the Executive Health and Safety Council of BC to elevate executive accountability, and launched Safety Meta World to transform safety training through immersive technologies. She led the development of Canada's first harmonised OSH practitioner competency framework through an inclusive, multi-stakeholder initiative. Lisa is a certified registered safety professional and accredited corporate director, and now she leads Galaxy Edge Safety Incorporated, which is a company that has a mission to elevate global safety outcomes through human-centred technology-enabled solutions. So please welcome to the stage Lisa Maguire.
Thank you for that kind introduction, and there it is. I'm here to share a case study from British Columbia, Canada, that happened in the manufacturing sector. But before I do, I want to reflect on our theme today, how the OSH profession is transforming. Many times it happens on its own, but often it's shifted by external forces that really deliver an impact. I'm here to share how a foundational challenge in the industry really moved forward, a solution that involved a health and safety competency and capability framework. So as the CEO of a health and safety association in my role serving the manufacturing sector, I often heard their challenges in health and safety, and one fundamental challenge that kept coming forward was the challenge they had with finding enough qualified health and safety professionals. So as a health and safety association supporting them, asked two questions that we were tasked to move forward with potential solutions. Do employers have access to a large enough pool of qualified health and safety practitioners, and do they have the right skills to support them successfully? So with those two challenges on the table, reached out to the government to look for ways to resource answers. We established a strong relationship with the government, and it was not only valuable to be able to access resources, but they also learned a lot about the OSH profession and how valuable of a resource they were and are to industry. So the program that we were eligible to support research in this area was called the Sector Labor Market Partnership. It involved a diverse portfolio of different stakeholders that came together, regulatory leaders, health and safety experts. We also had executive leaders, union leaders. So it was really a multi-task force that came together and established a governance. And that was phase one of this partnership. They were the body that stayed with this initiative for 8 years, that was a decision-making body for everything that was delivered. The next phase in this work was really getting a better handle of the challenge to be able to determine solutions. So in phase two, conducted a sector labor market research study that really was done by a third party and was done over an extensive period of time. 8 to 9 months was the time frame, and the outcome of that analysis of that work shared a common theme. There were many designations in health and safety, but industry was looking for a harmonized standard. So that really concluded phase two of the program, which then we moved forward with determining a strategy to solve this challenge. And with that, developed a strategy that looked at 4 quadrants. Now, the scope of this strategy was enormous. So without the resources to move all of it forward, we really targeted one area, developing a competency and capability framework. And with that work, recognized that there was a lot of great frameworks out there. And from that, utilizing IOSH and ENSHPO as a foundation, but adding additional skills and competencies to that, developed a framework. In developing the framework, had a multitude of experts across Canada and abroad. In determining the level or thresholds of competence for a qualified practitioner, used a process through expert jurors. And these were teams of experts in each of the different competency areas that came together and made decisions not only on what should be in the framework in those areas, but the level that a qualified person should operate at. So after putting all of that together, concluded with 76 units of competence across 8 knowledge domains, with of those 8, 1 being specific to the manufacturing sector. The next part of the work was then to compare that framework and level within that framework for a qualified practitioner to the programs offered in health and safety in our province, in British Columbia, in Canada. So the evaluation was quite extensive. There was 10 programs evaluated, all of them, with 130 syllabi. So using AI as one of the tools to be able to make those comparisons, interviews, outreach, and all kinds of other collaborative mechanisms to make a decision, recognizing this was sensitive work, came up with the following outcomes. 30% of the framework units didn't have any reference to the health and safety course outlines. Really looking for a need for business acumen skills, which was part of what was included in the framework, and people-centric skills. Those were predominantly the gaps of that 30%. Another critical importance that industry thought was invaluable was the necessity to see skills demonstrated practically, a practical demonstration of the competence. That also was measured and also, was determined as a need for the future skills for the health and safety practitioner. So next steps, there was short, medium, and long-term goals that were put together. The long-term goal really looked at a potential for a regulatory accreditation program like other professions. If we did have that harmonization and oversight are intrinsic to that model. In addition to what industry thought was important is an internship process. Short-term recommendations was to share the work that was done here in British Columbia, Canada, so that we can see if there are similar gaps in other frameworks or in other parts of the world. And really, it's been a pleasure being able to share this with you and look forward to hearing more about the questions from the work that was done over 8 years in BC.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Please take a seat. Oh, I think you can take the microphone with you.
No, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so next I would like to invite to the stage our rapporteur for this session. So I don't actually have your bio, Dee. So Dee is the current president of the INSHPO, which is the International Safety Professional Associations Association. It's the association of all associations, really, in my mind. Dee is also part of IOSH and has been working in the field for many, many, many years. And NEBOSH, sorry, she's NEBOSH, not IOSH. And I'm not going to say how many years you're in. So I'm just going to ask you to come up and take your place, Dee. Thank you.
Thank you. That's for you.
Thank you. And it's such a joy to now introduce to you Dr. Wadar Al-Hashami. He is the Senior Director of ENOC. He is a chairman of the Federal Committee for OSH in the UAE. This is a very long bio. He's a very, very distinguished gentleman. Wadar has a Bachelor of Environmental Engineering, and he's considered one of the leading experts on environmental sustainability, health and safety, as well as governance and leadership in high reliability organisations. There's several academic qualifications, an executive MBA, a PhD, many other things. He has received many awards in his years, including the Rashid's Prize for Scholarship Excellence in 2007 in Dubai, and Leader of the Year in UK in 2019. He's a visiting lecturer and professor for a number of universities in the UAE, India and Malaysia, and he's currently appointed as a Senior Director for Logistics and Marine Assurance for the ENOC Group in Dubai. He works closely with leaders and he partners with other organisations, and he's going to bring to the stage a deep understanding of many years of being in the health and safety industry. So please, Wadar, could you make your way to the stage? Thank you so much. So next on my list of accomplished people is I'm going to introduce to you Stuart Hughes, who's the immediate past president of IOSH, not NEBOSH, IOSH. He's a chartered fellow of IOSH, and his guiding principles for OH&S, which I assume is most of our own principles, is that a healthy and safe work environment is a fundamental human right. Throughout his many years as an OHS professional, he's focused on ensuring the working environment enables people to thrive and flourish. Currently, Stuart is the head of health and safety for Mercedes AMG Formula One team. Is that real? Wow. Apparently, if you're really into Formula One, they've won 8 consecutive Constructor World Championships and 7 consecutive Driver World Championships. So for all the hotheads, please say hello to Stuart Hughes. And last, but certainly not least, I'm going to introduce, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Amira Pabakis. She is an executive committee member of the IOSH Mauritius organisation. She is a Mauritius Occupational Health and Safety professional who currently serves as the Assistant Secretary of the Institute, the IOSH Mauritius Institute, and she's helping to steer that country's oldest OHS professional body and its strategic programs. She also has many qualifications, and she's built her experience in manufacturing firms around the place. She's also has the honour of being selected as the INSHPO intern for the 2025-26 term. And just in case you want to talk sport other than Formula One, with much disdain, I have to talk about Formula One actually with you. But Amira has represented Mauritius in the African Zone 10-pin bowling championships in South Africa, and I believe she's just come from a bowling tournament in Kuala Lumpur. So please welcome to the stage my friend Amira. Okay. Could we have some microphones around, please? Thank you. I'll give this one to you. This is a missing chair. So Amira, I'm going to start with you because I brought you onto the stage last. You've seen the OSH profession evolve over the past few years. I would probably hazard a guess that you may be the youngest of our panel members. So you've seen a lot of change in your time. So how would you describe the biggest shift that you've witnessed? Oh, you can come up here or you can just sit there, whichever you like.
Thank you, Dr. Marilyn. Although I look young, I'm not that young. Good afternoon, everybody. I stepped into my very first job as a safety and health professional about 10 years ago, full of enthusiasm, with high expectations, only to find that the emergency exits were blocked with boxes, the fire extinguishers on the floor, and that too hasn't been serviced for years. It actually felt more like a safety horror movie than a workplace. And when I asked about the risk assessment, the operations manager looked at me confused and said, "What's that?" It was clear then that occupational safety and health was more about compliance. It wasn't something that they would incorporate into the organization because they valued people. It was more about to avoid fines. And the workers, they didn't value safety. They tolerated it. Safety wasn't seen as a culture back then.
That's just walked in, isn't it?
I still remember the looks I would get during my morning walkthrough with my checklist and clipboards in hand, and as if I was the police about to issue fines. Once, I even heard an employee whispering, "Wear your PPE, she's coming." Little did I know that I was stepping into a profession that would require constant reinvention and resilience. One that would challenge me, stretch me, and ultimately transform me. So that experience, and many more since, showed me that occupational safety and health is not just about compliance or ticking boxes. It's about people, culture, and more than ever, it's about adapting to change in a world that's rapidly changing. Today, OSH professionals are expected to wear many hats: wellness advocates, mental health champions, environmental stewards, and many more. In Mauritius, as our industries diversify and modernize, we are witnessing this shift firsthand. So let me give you a glimpse of Mauritius. Mauritius is a small island, developing state located off the east coast of Africa in the heart of the Indian Ocean. With a population of about 1.3 million, we are known not just for our beautiful beaches, but for our resilience and innovation. We are truly a multicultural society, a rich blend of African, Indian, Chinese, and European heritage, that reflects into our workforce and workplace dynamics. Our economy has transitioned from being agricultural-based, from sugarcane fields, to tourism, financial services, healthcare, construction, and many more. We have a growing population of older workers, especially with the new retirement age of being 65, recently introduced in the 2025-2026 budget. So all of these factors present unique challenges and opportunities for OSH professionals to ensure that safety and health practices are inclusive, forward-thinking, and adapted to the evolving context. The profession is undergoing real transformation, one that demands we shift our mindset, update our skills, and expand our role beyond compliance. Another example is the new retirement law, which I just talked about. We must now consider aging workers in our risk assessments and address their mental well-being. But is the workplace fitted ergonomically to welcome aging workers? The hazards that we face today are more complex, invisible, and dynamic. Psychosocial risks like burnout, anxiety, and stress are rising. Climate change is not just a theory. Mauritius is literally feeling the heat. And with the rising sea level, it becomes another challenge. And that means greater risk for our outdoor workers, for the tourism sector. Currently, this is how we are expanding our OSH paradigm. We don't just train workers, we empower them. We just don't look at physical safety, we look into emotional, psychological, and digital safety. Despite our progress in Mauritius, we have knowledge gaps. To invest in policies tailored to our realities. So where do we go from here? The answer lies in managing OSH transition effectively and sustainably. Continuous learning for OSH professionals, emotional intelligence, and emerging risk. The future of OSH is not something that we watch unfold. It is something that we must co-create. If we want our profession to stay relevant, impactful, then we must be ready to transform ourselves first, to go beyond compliance and create a culture of care. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are very, very lucky to have another speaker that's going to join us very soon when they work out. So we're going to have another presentation, I believe. But in the meantime, actually, once Francisca joins us, it's going to be a very cosmopolitan panel that we have here. You know, we've got Canada, we've got the UK, we've got Australia, we've got Mauritius, and we've got Italy. So very global, very, very global here. So, and cosmopolitan. So, just while we wait for Francisca, just moving on from Amira's, I think I might go to you, Lisa, and to talk about the skills, perhaps some of those skill differences that you've seen and that you put into your competence framework.
Sure, is this on? Yes. Yes, so the skills that primarily were seen as gaps were business acumen, focused skills like stakeholder engagement or coordination skills. I mean, financial competence was a key one. Corporate social responsibility, you know, skills related to being able to sit at the table with executives and really be part of the strategic discussions to help manage risk. and develop risk tolerance maps to support really good outcomes that, to protect people. Other areas, in particular, were the people-centric focused skills that were traditionally not incorporated in health and safety programs. So technical skills have always been very well incorporated, but people-centric skills like conflict management, an HR component. I mean, interestingly, the HR program taught in Canada has a segment of health and safety within the curriculum, but we don't have human resource components within our health and safety program. So it's just, health and safety operates within a paradigm of people and process. So providing skills that operate in those two other areas, we're seen as critical for supporting industry.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, Lisa. And I'll come back to the gentleman on the panel in a second. I just want to introduce to you our final speaker, Francesco Santini. He's the president of the European Network of Safety Health Professional Organisations, which is ENSHPO. He's graduated with honours from electronic engineering from the University of Bologna in 1987. That's just a couple of years ago. So, and he's been working in maintenance and production management roles. He's worked at major multinational companies such as Philip Morris, Ducati Motors, another rev head. I don't know what's happened with this panel, and Tabacci Italiani. In these roles, and in addition to other technical and managerial responsibilities, he's directly managing health and safety. He's also the Chief Operating Officer for the first certified energy service company. And currently, as well as being the president of the European Network, he's also the president of the Italian Society of Occupational Safety and Health Professionals. So please welcome to the stage Francisco Santini. Thank you, that's okay. We'll get you to sit down and we'll have a chat first and then afterwards do your presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, sit down here on the stage, yeah. Okay, so now sort of moving back to talking about the skills that the OSH professional might need. Stuart, what do you see being a really good balance between the technical and the non-technical skills that the professional might need?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to start with a little story, if I may.
Sure.
So I went to Borneo, and they had a phrase, and it's called sama-sama. And it basically means same, but different. And I think that's how I feel about the future of OSH. I think the fundamental building blocks of effective risk management aren't disappearing. But actually what we need to do is kind of enhance those practices in the future. That's where it's going to be. And it's going to be a holistic approach to health, safety and well-being. And that's, forms part of the sustainability agenda. And I think that's the change that we're going to see. So we'll start to understand, I think, with new technologies, to be able to really interpret whether our data is good, bad, whether it means anything at all. And I think that means that we have to recognize that safety isn't the hero. You can't do this on your own. So actually what you need is this kind of collaborative approach. So, how do we go through that kind of cross-disciplinary stakeholder group, HR, data scientists, your IT people, operational people, etc., to actually effectively identify and manage risk. And I think the other thing that I think is really, really important is how we get new and established professionals to communicate, to mentor each other, to share their knowledge. Because actually there's we're not inventing new ways to harm people. So there are lots of people with experience that know how to deal with the things that other people are struggling to deal with. Mm-hmm. So we should just reduce those barriers and I think be able to bring that kind of harmony between the old and the new to really help. And I think that, what that really means is we've got to balance the traditional risk management processes with a layer of data that really tells us like where we can be proactive in our risk management. So risk's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, isn't it? If you remember the song by Coldplay, Yellow, that was absolutely everywhere. Like you couldn't get away from it. It was on the radio, everything else. Same with risk. Risk is in every part of life. And a life without risk would be really, really dull. So what we have to do is create the right framework around risk containment and control to enable people to work, to enable people to push the boundaries, to make progress, but to do it without causing people harm. And I think that if we can build people's skills in the technical and the non-technical to do that, then we're in good shape.
All right, excellent. Dr. Wada, what do you think about the skills that the professional might need moving forward?
Hello? Hello?
Yep,
Is it working?
it is now.
Right. Well, good afternoon. I think I want to start by saying that, like they always say, and there's a saying that man's great enemy is themselves, right? And I think for the HSE practitioner, I think for many years I've seen a lot of HSE practitioners not do themselves many favors by working within organizations and trying to, in very passionately and with all good intentions to try to bring about a lot of improvement within the organization. The problem is that, we work within organizations that at the end of the day have got various aims and objectives or a mission statement. And we have, as HSE practitioners, traditionally not always aligned our agendas with the agendas of the organization. And therefore, what has happened is that when we are having conversations with different important functions within the organization, it could be the marketing function or the finance function. And, in my career, it was a life-changing experience. For a couple of years, I was actually reporting as the HSE person to the CFO in the company.
Wow.
Well, no, the CFO, he was the CFO. He had a dual role. He was the CFO and the director of the CEO's office. So that's why I ended up working with him. And I try to always, when I have conversations with him, remind him that he was talking to me in his capacity as the director of the CEO's office and not the CFO. It was very difficult for him to change roles and mindset. But one of the things that I learned from that experience is that I had to change the way that I spoke to him. And I had to present a real value proposition, not always in terms of, a financial return on investment, but to look at the value against the risk, look at, showing him that risk management was, paid off well, and it protected our assets, it protected our people, it protected value and potential profitability. And so to that, I think that many HSE practitioners, I see it changing now, but for many years I've seen that HSE practitioners, don't speak the language of business, and that really creates a massive limitation to their impact because they're unable to talk to a financial manager or a marketing manager, or even sometimes, the operations and the asset integrity managers. And that's really a challenge because, you can't get your point across. So, basically, I think that HSE practitioners need to really understand that the mountain will not come to Muhammad. Muhammad has to go to the mountain. So therefore, we have to learn skills like, which are used for financial planning, the kind of skills for budgeting, the kind of skills that we understand on how return on investment is. And it's not blasphemous to look at a particular HSE initiative and try to explain to the organization that this can actually save money or even improve profitability as well. We talked about sustainability in the HSE practitioner, and in sustainability, there's a lot of opportunities to save money as well. So it's not blasphemous. It's not that you're saying, people have to do safety because it's about people's lives and it's about, yes, of course it is about that. But at the end of the day, it has to make business sense. And we can talk more about that. But in terms of the particular skills and particular examples. But I mean, that's my general point on this.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, definitely. I think that that's been a problem for safety professionals around the world, that we've never really known how to talk to the C-suite. And I go to conferences around the world, and it's often you have a presentation, somebody telling you, trying to teach you how to talk with the C-suite. And often for a practitioner on the floor in a construction company that's out there working all the time, they just don't have that skill to be able to change the way that they talk. And we need to. It's not them that need to change, it's us that need to change to be able to discuss things with them. So, yeah, thank you.
Just to tell you, you know, I remember once this guy's name was Khalid. It was the CFO and the director of the CEO's office. And I went to him one day and I had the whole proposal about setting up our occupational health center, which was a clinic, and, you know, the whole business case. And then he was sitting with me. He says, yeah, but I don't understand. What have you got to do with this? I said to him, what do you mean? He goes, no, what has this got to do with you?
Yeah.
I said, I'm the EHS manager for the group. And he's like, yes, but what's occupational health got to do with it? I said, Khalid, you know, what do you think the H stands for in EHS, you know? It's health. He said, no, it's a different type of health. I said, what kind of other health is it? It's human health, man, you know?
Oh, that's very funny. Francisco, welcome to our conversation. I'm sure you can get a microphone from somebody. Thanks, Stuart. What do you feel in your part of the world that the ongoing skills or the new skills that the profession might need?
Okay. Thank you for this question. And okay, in Europe, and especially in Italy, I would say that it's very difficult to put in a few words all the necessary skills of OSH profession. We could talk for many hours, and but taking from the last intervention, I think that we have to understand that we have to speak many different languages, because we have to speak to our CEO, our administration, to our employers, and they will speak usually with a different point of view and a different language.
Yep.
And then you will speak to employees and to union, and again you have to change or to be able to translate. But not only, what we are trying to do, and I think that is really necessary, of course in Europe, but for my experience even in Italy, is to try to speak with the politician, with the parliament, because they make the laws. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the laws that they make are completely with a very big gap with the reality, and we have to fulfill with the law. So what we have started during last 3 years is to try to knock on the door of the many different parliament organizations, like commission and so on, saying, please listen, could you listen to the people who is working on safety and health, and not only think about thinking something different from what could be useful for politics. And another languages is for university and for people who is working on a theoretical, important and necessary point of view, but it's different from the real point of view in a factory or in a building construction area. And so what is, in my opinion, and what I would like to express is that we need to be like a bridge. We need to be able to be like a bridge that is able to connect different islands. And this is not easy, but I think that is really an interesting position, because now we are some way at the center of the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That's a very fair point. And I think probably around the world, as we, I guess as we experience the rise in psychosocial hazards, we've also sort of many safety professionals, certainly in the Australia and New Zealand area are trying to be perhaps a bit too much. Stuart, as you said, like, we're not the heroes and we don't have to do everything, but what we do need to do is understand who we need to talk to in order to help the people or to solve the problem or to move forward in that way. And being able to talk the many languages, as we're saying, talking to HR, for instance, who traditionally have had that psychosocial risk in their back pocket, but now it's spreading across all of the parts of the departments in the organisation. Let's talk about psychosocial hazards for a little bit. So, Lisa, I'll start with you. Did you sort of recognise that in the manufacturing sector?
Yes, actually, the psychosocial component was incorporated as one of the competency areas. It was combined with physical competency, but and where it resided really is it focused on the workplace as opposed to the individual, because you wouldn't expect a health and safety professional to be an expert in psychology, right? That's not what we're asking. But where it intersects the workplace and the work task, you know, that's where the competency level was determined as a threshold.
Yeah, yeah. Stuart, in the UK, has there been a move to away from psychosocial controls such as EAPs into more of a focus on, say, human factors or into the design of the workplace? Have you noticed that? It'll come on.
There we are. I think you're starting to see some of that stuff. Some, like, look, there's still some places that don't even have like EAPs and other pieces. I think that the West is quite arrogant in its well-being agenda without really thinking about how it can help the rest of the world on basic risk management. I think the other thing that one of my big bugbears with the safety profession in the UK is we constantly ask people to speak up, but without any recognition as to how difficult that is, what the psychosocial risks are for people stepping outside of their group, how that is a fundamental challenge. And I kind of disagree slightly. I think safety professionals should have some psychology understanding. I think it's really, really important. Like, we deal with humans like on a day-to-day basis. So if you worked out what the best skill is that you could have as a new professional, talking to other humans on a human level is probably the best one that you can do before you get into tech, before you get into AI, before you get into all the other stuff. What we really need to be able to do is inspire people with the confidence that the organization will act appropriately when people speak up. So I think when we give things lots of different names when we're really doing the same stuff. So psychosocial risks, human factors, all of these elements, it's risk management around how the human can come to harm in the workplace. The big thing that we do, we kind of acknowledge these psychosocial risks. We identify, excessive stress as an issue, burnout, and all of these topics. And what we do is we go, right, here's some things that will help you, but just go back and do your job as you were doing just before. Like, it's madness. Like, here we are. This has broken you, but we're just going to put you back in there and ask you to do it again. So I'm not confident that we're set up in the right way anywhere in the world at the moment to manage it properly, because we're not really going back to the basics and saying, how do we eliminate this stuff? And that's where we really need to start. And I think we've lost sight of that.
Yeah, I think you're probably definitely on the right track there. In Australia, we've recently introduced regulations around psychosocial hazards where the organisation must identify and then control psychosocial hazards. And identifying them is quite easy. You can identify that you've got a potential for overloading work if you work in project, or isolated workers, of course, are going to feel isolated. But there's no controls. I mean, we still have isolated workplaces, so we still need to send workers to isolated workplaces. So I think you're right. We're seeing the end point, but we haven't got the beginnings there just yet. And And I do see, I personally think psychology should be a part of everybody's learning from school. I think from high school, when people start to understand themselves, they can understand other people at the same time. And I'm certainly pursuing some of those in my own lifelong learning. Francesco, what do you think about this need to look at psychosocial hazards, or what skills do we need around that?
I think that our biggest problem is to take care that when we talk about psychological risk and all the mental health problem, mental health program to improve, we are, in my opinion, we have some kind of bias. We are thinking to big organization. Mm-hmm. But 90% of people in Europe, in Italy, work in small, medium, and even in micro companies, where to go to speak about mental health, psychological problem, and something like this is not sometimes, most of the times, things at least ridiculous. They are thinking only to return on investment, to keep the company going on, especially in trouble period. So if you try to speak about this kind of problem, we have to face really that we are talking about a part, only a part, not a big part, a smaller part of the working force. Because, for example, in Italy, we had, I think 10 years ago, we had a law to check that is mandatory to have the psychological risk analysis in any company, from 2 people to 20,000.
Wow.
And they made some kind of checklist and so on. For 90% of the companies that I know, this is something that has been done on the paper in an office by the safety responsible or by the employer, and you just put a lot of cross and say, okay, I did it, put it in the desk. And so this, in my opinion, is the biggest problem, is how to face the small, medium, really small enterprises. Because in big enterprises, we had today discussing, we had discussion in the working group 1 with the Siemens. They are doing a wonderful job. We know it because in the European Commission, they talked about it. And in biggest company in Europe, you can face these problems. There are better or best technologies, best idea, best trends, but for really small and medium enterprises, nobody talk about it. And in my opinion, this is the biggest problem, because even the OSH professional he has a lot of difficulties to talk with employers about this problem.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thank you. Just at this point, I want to ask, does anybody in the audience have any questions of our panel members around psychosocial hazards? Are we able to get a microphone to the audience? Thank you.
We can do this. Oh, you on it? Oh, okay.
Awesome. You're going to be the roving mic man.
This side or me? Or? Go ahead. Thank you, Madeleine, for the nice moderation. It's related to yesterday's my experience when I was traveling in a subway. There were 2 gates in the subway. One gate closes, and another main train gates also closes. I asked my fellow passenger why these 2 gates are there. I have not seen any other parts of the world. He told me that suicide rates are high in Japan. I just want to know from the panelist, Francisco or others, how this rate in comparison with other developed countries, and are there any prevention measures are being done? Is it related to the work pressure or social pressure, something like that?
Do you mind if I jump in
Do you
just
want to jump
quickly
in
from
first?
a UK position?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's a really complex challenge. So, in the UK, the thing that's most likely to kill you if you're a man under 45 years old is yourself. That is not just a safety problem or a work problem, it's a societal issue. And, the world around us is quite turbulent at the moment, so you imagine that it's probably going to get more challenging rather than easier for people. I think the workplace has a part to play in that. And I think it is incumbent on organizations to be able to enable people to have the mechanisms to have conversations around mental health and to provide support. But I don't think it's a problem for the safety world to fix. Like, we are not qualified or competent in that area. But I think it's about recognizing it, and it's also about facilitating that conversation. So there are some great charities out there doing some amazing work, all the way from Samaritans to Mates in Mind to all sorts of people in the UK. They're the people that we should be utilising. So, I think you can't pin it to one thing, I don't think.
Yeah, and I would probably think that's the same in Australia. The Australian-New Zealand rates are probably quite high. Certain industries are much higher than others. But I believe that there's a World Health Organization report out that says somebody commits suicide in the workplace every 3 minutes or something, so around the world. So it is a workplace problem, and we do have to deal with it. But as Stuart has said, and as we keep talking, that the safety professional is not qualified to do that. But the safety professional needs to have that empathy and perhaps the emotional intelligence to be able to perhaps see things that other people might not see, and to have that conversation. And again, we're talking about communicating, being able to communicate to people in the way that they need to be communicated with at the time. So,
I think one of the issues, and I think to compare also the suicide rates with the different parts of the world, to look at the suicide rates, for example, in the developed world versus the underdeveloped world or the emerging economies. It's interesting to see those kind of statistics and to understand, and I do agree with my colleague here, it's a very complex issue which I don't think generally HSE people are qualified to address. But the problem is that we really, it's one of those major skills that we as HSE practitioners, I think, must learn, because many of the incidents, if we believe that the statistics say that more than 92 to 96 or 98% of all incidents are caused by human error, or if you want to call it human performance impairment or deficiency, whatever way you want to look at it, but something to do with the human being. So the lack of performance, I mean, in terms of human error, can be caused by your eye not being on task or your mind not being on task. If you're stressed and you're under social, you're under an immense psychosocial pressure, mental problem, you're probably not going to be able to do your job very well, because you're not focused on actually doing the job. Some work requires a significant amount of concentration, focus, and people who are involved in incidents, you look at the incident and you think, well, why did that person do that? They've been trained, they have many years of experience. A lot of the fatal, serious injuries and fatalities don't happen only to very young people. They happen also to people who have a lot of experience, because of, I guess, we've always thought it was complacency, but now we should start looking at the mental health issues and trying to understand a person's mindset, especially in an incident investigation, because that way you can go back and actually prevent incidents from happening by ensuring that people are, they've got their mind in the right place. So I think from a safety perspective, whilst we're not able to address maybe the root cause or the root of the root, for that matter, because we can't address societal problems, we can't go and sort out an employee's family problems, we can't go and sort out their financial problems. In the UAE, we have a lot of workers who said to commit suicide, there were high number of particular nationalities, and usually it is because of financial problems. So it is a real issue. We have to understand it. It doesn't mean that we should be get qualified to try to actually address the mental health problems, but we must at least understand and recognize what sort of creates this impairment in judgment for workers, and try to see how we can address address it from a root cause perspective. I think it's very important to do that. Most of these lack of performance leads to an incident, so it just manifests itself as an incident. But training could not get rid of it. It's not about training people. You could train people as much as you can. They've got mental health problems. You've got mental health problems.
Yep, we'll just hear from Amira, then we'll come back to the audience. Just keep talking. They'll get it.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
What concerns me as an OSH professional is if the employee is having problems and having suicidal thoughts, then he's not focused at work, especially if he's working on machineries. Then we cannot solve his issues completely, but we can make psychological help accessible to him. Although it is not the employer's responsibility to solve his issue, but we can contribute so that he gets all the help he needs, maybe days off, so that he can recover and come back to work as someone who is motivated again and refreshed, and that would surely impact productivity positively.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're right to say that it's not the employer's responsibility, legally, I guess, but perhaps one of the changes that we need to make is that employers need to have a moral responsibility to help their workers, not just in their physical sense when they're in their workplace, but in other areas as well. So, from the gentleman.
Thank you. I'm Najam Gill from Mari Energies, Pakistan. Normally, HSE professionals talk about the psychological safety, but there is another newly introduced phenomena of neurological safety. So my question is, how much is interlinked with the psychological safety and well-being of employees, and what are the acts the employer should do to promote this sort of safety at the workplace?
Who wants to take that one first? Oh, can you repeat the question again, just a little bit louder for us?
The differentiation between psychological safety and neurological safety. It's a kind of a bit medical, you can say, technique and phenomena, but it is linked with the mental health of the employee. Neurological safety generates alerts if the worker is doing unsafe acts and not acting on unsafe conditions that lead towards the accident.
Are you talking about, like, perhaps wearable technology that's alarming a system that then says workers not doing the right thing?
But it is also linked with the psychological safety.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not. I personally haven't seen any research or any practice on that, but anybody in the field?
Yeah, I'm not into this. So I really struggle with things where we say an employee is not doing the right thing. We would use some kind of neurological marker to set that off. Like the employee may be taking a very different route to solve the problem that might be better than what we think is there. So that's where I struggle with compliance as an agenda. I think there's a ground level where it's necessary, but the reality is a worker comes to work to do their best job. They're faced with the circumstances that we don't control as a safety person because the organization has budget, it has capacity, it has time, and it puts all of those things and pressures into the workers' day-to-day activity, and they do their best. I think anything that we start to use where we're using brainwaves or kind of tracking things that flag somebody's not doing something properly is a really dangerous way to go. I think if we can utilize the technologies to enhance people's ability to learn if we can enhance it to track how employees make sensible diversions in the way that they do their work, and we can learn from that and improve generally, then I think that's potentially a very good way to go. But we have to fundamentally, we have to stop this idea that we're going to apply technology to make people behave in a very, very prescriptive way. It's not realistic, and I think it's not appropriate either, is kind of where I sit with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I fully agree. I think that technology can be used to some way measure behavior, but to understand how far is our procedure from the reality. We have many examples of use of cameras in department and so on. And I do remember a presentation we had in Riga some months ago. And on a paper mill, they have the camera looking the milling machine, the paper machine. And at one time, they discover one worker jumping over the machine because the machine was stopped in a particular way, and to making the machine restart, the operator was used to do this. But nobody knows, because the operator, the skilled operator knows how to do it, but they even are not able to describe it because it's not usual. Nobody asked, nobody checked. The supervisor does not stay all the day looking at the machine. So if the operator does not tell him that in this really particular situation I have to climb the machine and to do this kind of operation, really dangerous because it's at 10-meter height, nobody knows. So in this situation, the camera was really useful, but not to criminalize the operator, to say why you're doing this, to make something, to make the machine restarting. So our procedure for the machine restarting is wrong because we don't take care of this particular situation. So we have to improve the machine. We have to, with some kind of scale, some different position, some different technologies to avoid this problem. And if the problem occurs again, it's not your duty to go over the machine. Of course, once we have discovered that you are used to do it. So in this kind of operation, but really is like the supervisor that stay in the department for the whole period or the whole shift and check the machine. And in my experience, in maintenance, this happens many times every day, because you ask the operator, please describe me the procedure. I come to you to check how you do it, and usually they are not able to recreate all the possible situations. So we have a working procedure that is taking care of 80%, 90% of the possible situation. There are 15% of possible situations that are not described, and the operator is doing something that we are not expecting, and we do not know that, but is not doing wrong. He is doing what is the best idea and technology for this moment. We have to improve the procedure. We have to improve the knowledge of the process.
Thanks, Francesco. We just have one more question and hopefully a quick response, because then we're going to have a little break and we can come back to questions.
Thanks. I just wanted to very respectfully push back on the word commit when we talk about suicide. Suicide is not a crime anymore in an awful lot of places, and the phrase commit suicide still carries an awful lot of stigma. So die by or complete is kind of a preferred piece of language. And I also I wanted to ask a little further around the question of, understand that as health and safety professionals, it's not our job. We're not psychologists. We're not experts in this area. But how do we use our platform to create cultures where it is acceptable for people to ask for the help that they clearly need, whether that is work-related or personal? How do we do that?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there are many ways we can help. I mean, part of it is education in terms of communication at all levels within the organization to make it safe to share information, and then to have effective employer assistance programs available so you can connect those individuals when you see something as a behavior that may be associated with needing additional help, so that you can have those conversations freely and safely, and then connect them with the experts to help support them.
I think as HSE practitioners, as I said before, I think we carry a responsibility because, you know, incidents when they happen because of human performance could be because of a human factor issue which is related to. But the complexity comes in the sense that a person comes to work and, you know, the psychosocial challenge issue that they might have might be something that came from home or from wherever, you know, outside work or from inside work. The ISO 45001, one of the big changes and the departures from OSHA's 18001 was this whole emphasis and whole section on protecting employees from reprisal, because that was the psychological safety that employees would have coming to work, feeling that you know, if they reported, for example, incidents or something like that, that they would be reprimanded. So I think the standards in HSE have tried to address more and more, trying to help the employee not get into a situation where they might be in a. But the difficulty is that, you know, the psychological issues or psychosocial issues that they are facing might come from outside work and might come from inside work. So, you know, how much is it of the employer's responsibility? The problem is that if something does happen to the worker, you know, at work, wherever that work might be, even if it's remotely, they're responsible. So, therefore, HSE practitioners are expected to come up, and I had conversations with senior leadership saying to me that, well, you know, a person had a heart attack at work, and when I was establishing the occupational function within our organization, and it was very difficult conversations because we kept on telling them, no, you know, if you do medicals for the workers, you could tell that if you put them into stressed environments, they're at an increased risk, and therefore you need to reduce that type of risk. And I think employers find it very difficult. You know, it's a big task, it's a big ask of them, because it's also them taking that kind of responsibility and saying, well, if a person comes to work and, you know, is having psychological problems because they have a problem with their family, then what, you know, why should I get involved in this? And so it's a very, very complex issue. But we as HSE practitioners have to understand this, and we should work with other functions within the organization, including the EAP programs, employee assistance programs, you know, with the HR department, with the occupational function if it exists, and so on and so forth, for sure, you know.
And, you know, just from a case study perspective, in Australia, like many other developed countries, you know, the work, some industries like the construction industry, manufacturing, transport, very macho, very male, and historically talking out loud about how you feel is just not done. You don't do it. And there has been a big stigma around that. And the Australian media and government, I won't say government policy, but individual government people and individual companies have worked really hard to try and reduce that. And now it's, I won't say it's safe in every single workplace to talk about your feelings or to say out loud that you're not coping with the workload. But we have our footballers, we have our cricketers, we have our politicians, we have a large amount of celebrities coming out to the media and saying, I have a problem. I have a problem with mental health, or I have a problem with anxiety, or I've been suffering through depression. And because we're doing that, it makes the workplace, it makes it easier in the workplace when the HSE professional is putting in programs to say, you know, talk up, you know, are you okay days, you know, lots of different things, then it's easier for people to actually do it. So, thank you for your attention so far and your great questions. Please keep thinking about your questions. We're going to have a short break now, half an hour, and then we're going to come back with a presentation from Francesco, and then another conversation to finish up our day. So please be, if you do need to go, please be back at 4:45. Thank you. We seem to have lost our entire audience, but that's okay. We're going to keep on going. We're going to start this second part of the session off with our good friend from Italy, Francesco. Yeah, and you need the microphone.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you. I would like to talk about the future of OSH profession, and to talk about this, I would like just to remember that I am president of an organization, an umbrella organization with more than 14 different organizations taking care of professional people in Europe. To talk about the development of our profession, I would like to make a parallel between the cultural transformation, the most famous Bradley DuPont safety culture. But I would like to make a parallel with the Anderson ugly duckling. Like Anderson ugly duckling, the OSH profession began as an unwanted egg. Nobody wanted us around until something went wrong. In the reactive culture stage, we were the safety police, only called when accident happens. Organizations saw us as a necessary evil, focused purely on compliance and costs. As we moved into dependent culture, like the Dudley, struggling to belong, we worked desperately to prove our worth. We created a rule-based system, comprehensive training programs, and impressive safety metrics. We were finding our place, but we still seen as not as a part of core business. The awkward adolescent of the duck trying to fit into the popular flock. Then we came to the independent culture. The duckling moment of self-realization mirrored our evolution into independent culture. We discovered we weren't just safety enforcers. We were strategic business leaders. We became proactive, culturally integrated, and innovation drivers. Safety became everyone's responsibility, not just ours. In the interdependent culture, we achieved our full swan transformation. Today, OSH professionals are strategic advisors, organizational change agents, and value creators. We were no longer the ugly duckling trying to fit, but we are the magnificent swan that other swans admire. But now we are facing a new problem, and I would like to use another metaphor. In Italy, there is a quite famous bridge in a small town called Comacchio Bridge. Usually a bridge links two parts together. This bridge connects 5 different islands at the same time in one bridge. So I think that the future of OSH is exactly to be a bridge, a constructor of bridge. We have to face unprecedented paradox. Workers still die from hazards we solved theoretically decades ago: mechanical injuries, chemical exposure, falls, agricultural accident. These aren't problems, yet they persist, despite our knowledge and technology. Simultaneously, we must prepare for entirely new risks we talked today: climate change impacts, artificial intelligence and robotics, integration, mental health challenges, and new work. The gig economy Remote work and 24/7 connectivity create risks that our traditional model can't address. We cannot choose between these worlds. Our role as a bridge builder requires us to excel in both domains simultaneously. At the same time, as we talked before, we have to link together different languages. Employers speak ROI, productivity and competitive advantage. Employees speak rights, protection and fairness. Politicians speak public interest and governance. Academics speak research and evidence. We must be multilingual translators, helping employers understand that safety drives productivity, showing workers that their concerns are business priorities, translating field experience into policy recommendation, and turning research into practical solutions. When we successfully connect these stakeholders, we create a multiplication effect, better safety solution, enhanced worker protection, more effective regulations, and impactful research. So the end of the story is that now we are a magnificent swan, and our transformation is complete, and we have today's OSH professional is a beautiful swan, elegant, powerful, and essential. But our beauty lies not in our individual brilliance, but in our ability to connect, bridge, and unite. We have evolved from reactive responders to proactive leaders, from rules reinforcers to cultural builders, from cost centers to value creators. We bridge the gap between persistent past and emerging future, between diverse stakeholders' interests, between internal and external organizational force. The swan wings represent our expanded capabilities, and the OSH profession has found its voice, its power, its purpose. We are no longer the unwanted egg and struggling duckling, but we are the magnificent swan, the master bridge builders, the grid connector of safety universe. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Sometimes I still feel like the ugly duckling, though.
No.
Yeah, I do. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit then. So, if we're going to be the bridge, I've often found in my experience that there's a very big body of water between the research and the actual practice. So, how do you all feel about the role of the safety professional that's in an organisation? How do you see the role of that person being the pracademic, where they're the ones that are taking the research into practice? Who wants to start with that question? Sure, Lisa.
And I think, great, starts. No, I think the health and safety professional play a very important role in interpreting the information from research and translating that into language that every demographic can understand, from the worker level to the senior executive, and that practical implementation strategies are considered in the process.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, what I really like about, it's a really lovely presentation. What I really like about that is the story. So we've taken a story and we've attached OSH to it. So we've not we haven't built our own new thing. And I think that storytelling is probably one of the most important things that we can do. But I think what we really need to do to make it even more powerful is to get other people to tell our story. So if we can get other people to tell the story of OSH, I think that we're in a really strong position. So I like this idea of being a bridge builder. I see some people do this very well on LinkedIn. They circulate papers and put commentary and open discussion up, and it's quite powerful. I think if you're going to build a bridge, you need all of the component parts to build the bridge. So one of the challenges is, do we have all of the parts to build that bridge? And if we don't, who has the rest of the parts to help us build the bridge?
Yeah.
But I really like, I sit and watch that and I go, it's saying all the things that we're thinking, we've been discussing, but very eloquently in a nice, easy story to remember. And I can go home feeling like a swan, which is always nice. Exactly. I like to often talk about myself as an electrician when I'm telling a story. And I honestly do, I 100% agree with you that a story remains in people's minds and hearts for a lot longer than any compliance tool that we're ever going to give someone. And as you say, we need help to build the bridge and we need all the parts, and we can't do it ourselves. And we've been saying this for the whole session now, that we need other people to help us. And I think that what we need to do, and linking in the electricity with it, is I feel that occupational health and safety professionals and practitioners already have their light on. You know, there's the light switch that turns safety on. And my light switch is on, and it's got gaffer tape stuck over it so it can't come off. I can't turn safety off when I walk out of this conference. I can't turn it off when I walk off a construction site. My mind, my heart, and my action is in safety all of the time. So what we need to do is we need to energize other people and switch their lights on so that they can help us. Because one light shows a little bit, but many lights shows the whole place. So again, another way of telling exactly the same story. I do like the swan analogy though, and swans fit into bridges quite well, so that's really good. But what about getting back to research? How important do you think the science research around safety practice is for us professionals? Hello.
Yeah, so I think this morning there was a presentation in another place that talked about, evidence and understanding safety evidence. And I think that Lloyd's Register Foundation, whatever, is doing that project. And I think it's important that we are able to use more and more, as practitioners, be able to use evidence of what's happened. What's interesting, you spoke about working with executives and boards, and the work that we do on governance and leadership is such that today, if an incident happens in a certain part of the world, let's say in the energy industry, oil and gas, where I work, and no longer in the past, what would happen is that if you're in a certain jurisdiction, like let's say in the UK, you would go to the judge and say, well, we never had an incident like this before, or in our company or in the UK, and therefore there was no precedent to this, and it was unforeseeable and all that. However, now more and more, you're not able to get away with that, because if there is evidence that this kind of incident happened somewhere else in the world, and you're able to show scientifically that the reasons or the underlying reasons for that incident were the same, then the onus is on you to have made sure. So because of the availability of globally to incident investigation findings and things like that. Now you might say, well, that's very normal in certain industries. The aviation industry, for example, have been doing this for many, many years, but there are many, many other industries which have not been doing that. It's very important to be able to use kind of numbers and use them properly, because, as Benjamin Disraeli said, there's lies, and then there's dime lies, and then there's statistics, right? So and this is maybe another point to this, is that a lot of people tell me, oh yeah, but now with the advent of artificial intelligence, our lives are going to become so much easier, because the artificial intelligence, we can use the AI and the Gen AI to be able to work things out for us. But it's always about garbage in, garbage out, and at the end of the day, the AI can do some analytics based on certain data, based on only as good as the algorithm it has been designed to look at. And some of these algorithms are extremely impressive, the kind of stuff that they can work on. But us as safety practitioners, when we walk in the field, so we talk about wearables, or we talk about, area monitoring systems, cameras with heat detection and this detection and that detection. But, nothing really, takes away from actually walking in the field and really feeling and smelling what's going on and being able to analyze, if there's a problem, watching people and looking at people. And I think we can use the science, and we should use the science. We should use access to any kind of technology and pick up the data. But we should not lose that sense of being able to really analyze what that data is telling us. Otherwise, we might be analyzing information incorrectly. Because it's all about correlations at the end of the, most of these algorithms that work on these systems are algorithms. And I'll tell you one thing a lot of people don't know. In the cartoons, they always show you this particular bird which delivers the babies.
Oh, yeah, the stork.
Yeah. Do you know what is the relationship between the stork bird and delivering babies?
I do not.
Okay. So the stork bird is in the Nordic countries, and it migrates from the upper north to the lower north area during spring, actually. And as it's traveling, because it's traveling like, thousands of kilometers, it on the way stops at places where it can get some warmth. So the best place to stop is by the chimneys, because the chimneys are pretty hot, right? So the hot gases are coming out. So they go and they sort of hang around the chimneys. So what has that got to do with babies? Well, in the Nordic countries, it starts to become very dark around September time. So September is like, the sun starts setting at like, 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of night hours, right? So anyway, 9 months later, you get a big plume of, childbirth, right? Around the springtime, or the end of or mid-spring or end of spring in the Nordic countries. So that's why the relationship, right, between the stork birds and the babies. So we know, obviously, that the stork birds and the babies have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But there's such a strong correlation of the data, right, between the stork birds and the babies that we think that the stork birds actually bring the babies. So these are two independent sets of data, highly correlated, but have absolutely nothing to do with each other. And we can find that in, so it's a question of you must understand the data. You must understand where that data and what that data is telling you, and not just draw conclusions. Now, an AI wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The AI would tell you that they're correlated. Because they would just look at the data and they'd correlate the data. And we did that in the past. So, the artificial intelligence was as stupid as we were in the past as well.
Well, I think that, to further the story on even more, I think that story is already in safety and embedded in the very ethos of us, because what is the relationship between lagging indicators and positive safety performance? There is absolutely no relationship. But if you talk to anybody, they'll say that we need lagging indicators because we need to see what we've done before so we can do it better now. So babies and storks and statistics and behaviour, it's all there. But what I'd like to point out is I was personally involved in what you were saying so much that I actually forgot that I was moderating this session. So the benefit of being able to tell a story to change people's minds or to influence their behaviour is so important. It's so important. And I personally believe that's one of our skills that we need to develop.
The only thing I'd just add to that, so completely agree with the, you need to know what you're looking at. I don't think we need data to do the right thing. So, you said earlier, can't switch safety off. You can't. You walk off a construction site, and if you walk past something going on that's not on your site and you see somebody in harm's way, I'm betting that you intervene or at least have a conversation, right? You don't need data for that. That is just a the sign of a great safety professional. And I think this piece of that curiosity, you know, how do we help people to be curious about, is the data telling us what it should be telling us, but also to be curious about, oh, I can hear an angle grinder and I don't know that there's any work going on, so like, I'm going to go and investigate. And I think that's, you know, for all of the talk of future technologies and all of these things that can help you do stuff by not even being anywhere near the site, we're going to lose some stuff without that. So you need the human in the loop with all of their senses to be able to identify some of the things that, you know, are unexpected. So I think there's a real fine balance of data and human experience.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, and it's probably one of the other. There's many ongoing debates in safety, you know, like whether you should, you know, be a professional and be university trained, or come off the tools and have life skills to be a professional, or whether we should stick with science and not worry about experience. And there's many of these things going on. But I want to sort of shift the conversation a little bit now, and I want to put to the panel what type of new partnerships do you think we as professionals need to have to enhance safety moving to the future? And I might start with Amira. What do you think? Because Amira, you know, I'm very interested in what a very small country is doing and how they're doing it, because the rest of us come from quite large countries.
So in Mauritius, we haven't started incorporating AI into the industry yet. It is quite costly, and in a small island, financial and resources constraints are extreme. So what was your question again?
Oh, what partnerships, what new partnerships do you think will enhance safety?
So I think with AI and automation, OSH professionals need to partner more with engineers, because we should not overly rely on the, automation and digitization, because we don't know when and what kind of failure can happen anytime. So this should not replace the OSH profession as in real-time hazard detection. So partnering with engineers and getting to know more about AI in the workplace and how that would impact OSH professionals is a good start. Also, we need skills to know how to develop new SOPs while having these smart technologies in the workplace.
All right, yeah, engineers is one. That's great. Well done. Francesco, what about yourself? What do you think? What type of partnerships do we need?
Okay, I think that we have to think about partnership in two different ways. One, talking about big companies, of course. One inside the company and one outside the company.
Yeah.
Inside the company, we have to make the famous break the silos. So we have to work with our HR department, administration, maintenance. So maintenance is obviously strictly related to safety. So we have, and outside the company, we have some kind of experience in Italy, really interesting. We proposed a kind of club of AJC manager of big companies, more than 500 people, and that is completely free. It is protected because they are interested target for many companies, as so they are protected in a location, not physical location, a virtual location, and we enable them to discuss together, to exchange idea, experience, and it started during COVID, because some big companies in Italy, when COVID started, they already have experience because they have some department in China, and so on. So we received some kind of procedure, information, best practice before the COVID explosion in Italy. And when we had these companies were much more in advance than other companies. And so we started to say, oh, but we could do it for any kind of problem. So now they have some kind of alliance of agency manager of big companies, and they met 3-4 times a year in one of the company, so they can see physically. They have a plant tour, but in the morning they exchange the different best practice, completely free and completely protected from other institutions, even from employers. Okay, because so they can talk even some things like how many people do you have in your department, respect our employees, and so on. And it works. Now we have more than 130 different companies in this group. And another alliance we need outside, we talked today, if we want to work on mental health, we need to have some kind of alliance with psychological expert. And so we are developing in Italy a group of people that is taking care exactly of defining how to face the problem of suicide in the company. As told, we are not expert on this. I'm an engineer, so mainly I know nothing about psychological aspect apart from being a father. So I know a lot of things being father, but apart from this, we put together psychological institution, organization, association, human resource association, and our association, and make a group with university even, and we make a group to develop a proposed standard for the organization to face the beginning of the problem if it's possible. And it is a very, very hard job. It started just a couple of months ago because in January we had a very big meeting in Milan where we talk about this, and we discovered we were thinking perhaps no more than 40, 50 people will come. We had 400 people coming and 200 connected, and from all over different fields, so from human resource and others. And we discuss about this topic that is really, really hard, and you do not expect that is a real working problem in some kind of category that you do not expect, like teachers. We have a high suicide rate in teachers, and they are, and sometimes for me it's difficult to understand it. But okay, I am an engineer, so I stop here.
We won't hold that against you because you are an engineer. Lisa, any comments about partnerships from Canada?
Yes, I think in today's climate, there's so much on business with political and economic challenges. I think ways that we can influence success for health and safety is to really integrate within other areas like the environment and quality assurance programs, because then health, safety, and well-being can integrate in the very fabric of every aspect of the business, which really can change the DNA of the culture within the organization.
Okay. And Stuart?
I will come in on that. I think the first thing we need to do is get better at how we communicate within the profession. So you kind of reference there's a lot of different conversations happening. Some of it's pretty toxic and not very helpful. And I think that actually we could get better as a profession at leading ourselves. Better partnerships between different factions and groups and bodies and all of those things to actually have like a single united front on safety. I think that would be a really positive start for us. then I think we can, like, once our house is in order, then I think we can go out to HR, to the Institute of Directors, business leaders, manufacturing associations, and all of these other people who have the same skin in the game as we do and make real impact. But at the moment, like, if you are outside looking in, we look like a horror show.
Yeah, I think as you're talking there, I'm thinking, you know, safety 1, safety 2, the new view, the this and that, and human factors and HOP and all of these different theories, and people and industries and perhaps even countries in some stances will take one of them and they will make their own, and then they think that's the only thing that there is, and it does cause problems, and it's one of those. I think it's one of the reasons why that divide between research and practice exists, because of that. There's always a new theory coming around, and what do you do with them?
And I think that I think what we probably need to, like, I'm not a big fan of harmonized standards. So, like, I kind of recoil when ISO comes around, because, like, it basically means everybody's moving towards the middle and doing the same stuff. And I'm not sure that's great for innovation or development. Personal opinions before I upset anybody who's, like, associated with those things. But actually what we want to do is have, you know, I think we had a set of guiding principles that were global, that had a framework around them for people to kind of play in the grey. I think that would be that's a really good step forward, I think, because actually we have like a minimum standard and growth within those kind of principles, but not such a set framework that you kind of have to do these things that perhaps aren't pertinent or relevant to what you're doing. And I think that I think would also help us with, actually, when a new thing comes along, does it add to those principles? Does it enhance the way people are protected at work? If it does, great, let's bring it in. And if it doesn't, then we should be robustly challenging that and pushing it away. Like, yeah, that's where I sit with it.
Yeah, okay. Just for your information, talking about partnerships, not all that long ago, INSHPO engaged someone to identify how many health and safety professional associations were out in the world. And I'll ask people that don't know the real answer, because you're in INSHPO. So does anyone want to take a guess of how many health and safety professional associations there are in the world? 500? Oh, 5 to 10, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. 450 plus is very, very close. I was going to say 400, just over 400. So 400 organizations in the world that look after members, which are health and safety professionals or practitioners or their associated other people. Now, that's a lot of people to talk to. And to me, what that shows is that we're not alone. We don't have to move forward by ourselves as an individual country or an individual industry or an individual region. We have got so many people out there that are probably going through similar issues that what we are, as in individual places. So, reach out, make these partnerships, attend conferences like this, hook onto webinars. Like, the fact that we have technology now where you can attend a live webinar that's given in Mauritius when you live in Australia, which is 14 hours in the future from Mauritius. So it's quite amazing that that can happen. So I really do encourage everyone that I talk to do those types of things. So I just want to sort of ask one more question of the panel members before I'm going to hand it over to my colleague here to sort of close us all up and give us a call to action. So I'm going to ask each one of you the same question. So the question is, what one action should be prioritised globally to advance our profession? Who wants to go first?
I'll kick us off then. I had a little think about this earlier, not knowing that you'd asked me this, but just kind of guessing. We spent quite a bit of time, I think, or we spend quite a bit of time talking about being future ready. I think we should not get too hung up on that. I think if there's one call for action, it's let's get the fundamentals in place and then build from there. Once we've got that, we can think about being as future ready as you like.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Francisco?
How many days to answer? No, it's really difficult. Just from my experience, I think that the development of partnership, of association, of webinar, of discussion, so keep growing the dialogue between experts and people who's taking care of these issues. I think that this, in my opinion, if I would put €1 on this, is the first thing that I would do.
Okay. Amira?
I would like to add that every country has got its own challenges, and we are all facing more or less the same emerging risk. So collaboration globally would be a good start, so that we are all aligned, all professionals, OSH professionals are aligned, and we can build on that.
Okay, fantastic. Wada?
So I think maybe three things that I've seen in the last, if I reflect on the last 25 years of my life, my career, actually. The first one is it all starts with, I think, leadership, right? So it is governance and leadership which is very important, and because the fish rots from the head, So I think we need to spend more time as professionals, professional organizations, whatever, passionate people about safety. We should spend more time talking to very senior people within organizations, directors and leaders of organizations, and getting them to understand the importance of not going beyond commitment, really, towards being real stewards of safety and HSE for the right reasons, for the sustainability of the organization, for its growth, and for the protection of people, obviously, and assets, and so on and so forth. The second thing is that as professionals, as I said earlier on, I think when I started, that we as professionals need to recognize that we need to go to the mountain. So we need to develop our business acumen skills and understand our business and understand how to talk to people within the organization to really get their buy-in and really explain to them what is it that we need to do together to get things done. Not, because it's a policy and it's because I'm the police and you better do it, and the CEO said so, or the board mandate is there and stuff like that. It should be more of the emotional intelligence that we should use to try to transform people. And I think lastly, I think what we haven't spoken about today is the importance of not learning from other, institutes to institutes. You said 400 institutes, probably representing a good few million people around the world working in HSE. I don't know, there aren't that many people, because when I come to these conferences, I always end up bumping into 2-3 people that I know. So we're a small international community, I think, as far as I'm concerned. But what is very important is that we should learn from other industries, so industry to industry, right? So the manufacturing should learn from oil and gas should learn from aviation, and so on and so forth. And to just give an example, I don't want to take too much time, but in aviation, and you spoke about lagging and leading indicators. So when aircraft, and when I was doing high reliability organizations, I studied this. When aircraft come to land, they need to keep a separation distance. That separation distance needs to be something like 2 nautical miles. If that distance is closed, right, immediately that is logged as an incident, right? And so let's say it's 1.9 separation distance between the two aircraft as they come to land. And then it's logged as an incident, and it is investigated. So it is looked at, it's the right side of the bow tie, right? It's an incident. It would be a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator. So they don't see it as a near miss, but nothing happened. And I wondered for months when I was studying this, why do they do this? Why is it? It's a near miss, clearly, but it wasn't as far as they were concerned. They were concerned that we need to make sure that planes never can even come close to crashing when they're in the air. So that is a philosophy that the aviation industry has taken. And we know that, you know, notwithstanding the many incidents that we hear about in aviation, if you look at the number of millions of miles which are flown, that is one of the safest industries in the world. So we should learn from other industries, not only learn their practices or the way that they calculate KPIs, we should learn and understand their approach and their philosophy towards safety.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Lisa?
Sure. So upon reflection on the question, a global priority, I really look at Canada in my own backyard first. I think there's a lot of work that was done over 8 years, and one of the recommendation, the core recommendation, was moving forward a regulatory accredited structure so that health and safety could be recognized as a profession similar to other professions. I think there's value in looking at the structure of other professions that have been in a long time and to see what perhaps the OSH profession can learn from those structures and just the learnings that, you know, the medical profession has been around for hundreds of years and OSH profession is fairly new. So I do think benchmarking, you know, looking outside the box may be of value, and then taking that information and really coming together and determining, you know, what are, you know, the core framework that what you said, Stuart, could be set as the foundation and structure for a step forward.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I think my opinion on that, I think if I had to pick one of those, I would have to say to Wada's point about looking outside our own industry, to go to other industries. In my career as a safety professional, I mostly am in learning, in education. And the education field has been doing so many amazing things with learning, and the safety profession is only just catching up with that. And yet we teach or we learn all the time. So yes, I would encourage everyone to go outside their industry to learn more. But now I'm going to pass over to my wonderful colleague from NEBOSH, Dee, to sum us all up.
What's the question first?
Can I ask a question, Marilyn?
Yes, you may.
Because you closed already, so.
Oh, I haven't really closed.
I have a question to Amira, because she has said a very good case study. And under the diverse workforce, you said that 10 years back, people were really scared of the safety officer or safety engineer who are coming to them. They wear the PPEs by seeing the safety officer. And how is the situation now? Because you have a diverse workforce and we have the similar type of work cultures. And how is the situation now? How did you make that positive difference, you know, positive change?
So with the coming of COVID-19, employers have realized the importance of health and safety professionals on site, you know, because in order to put all the implementation measures for prevention, this is where the only one they would run to is health and safety professionals. So after that, employers started treating OSH professionals as a key player in the company. And as at now, with the emerging risk, mental health, climate risk, the OSH professional are supposed to take into account while doing the risk assessment, take into account all these in order to ensure that the company doesn't suffer from production losses and fatalities and everything. So I can say that today, OSH professionals has gained much importance in the industry, building a safety culture. Like myself, when I started 10 years back, like I said, it was more like a safety horror movie. And now the progress that we have made in reducing the number of accidents, today we, apart from preventing accidents on factory floors, we are also working towards building and advancing that safety culture, implementing well-being at the workplace, ensuring that our employees are getting the help and support they needed in order to be able to voice out whenever there's an issue.
Thank you so much. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes, you're right that after COVID-19, the image of our OHS professionals has substantially increased. Yes, true. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashok. Hi, everyone. I will do my best to summarise what has been a really engaging and diverse conversation and dialogue and questions from you as well. We started with Dr. Marilyn really beautifully setting the scene, and the objectives of this session was to look at how do we move from a culture of compliance to a culture of care in a world where change is hitting us in every direction at an unprecedented pace. And I think we also set the scene by saying there was really a need for the OSH profession to embrace that change and transform. And it was a great reference from Amira to say that we need to co-create that. I know when I was doing my mentorship many years back, the best advice I got was we do health and safety with people, not to them. And I think that was a theme in the dialogue today as well. We then heard from our amazing panelists with diversity from Canada, Italy, Mauritius, UK, Australia, and the UAE. But I think there was a golden thread through all of the input from the panelists in that in this ever-changing world, what hasn't changed is that we're all here to look after people and each other. We're here to make sure that the people we work with go home safe, healthy, and well to their families and friends every day. And I think that compassion is built into every health and safety professional that I ever have the honour of meeting and working with. We also heard that the foundations of risk management will remain the same, that there's still work to do in sharing that expertise across sectors, across countries, globally. But expertise is there and we can really all collaborate more and learn from each other. But we also need to be ready for the change and the emerging risks. So we need that curiosity both within our own organisations and externally as well. And I think another challenge for me that came out was this need to absolutely embrace change, embrace technology, but balance that with that ultimately we're protecting people with a heart and a soul and a spirit, and sometimes we need to come to the basics of that. And I think entwined with that was the need to tell a story, that if we're really trying to engage people, if we tell that story, that can be super powerful. And I love the ugly duckling story. And I think we've all felt like an ugly duckling sometimes and still feel like that when the challenges face us. But in each and every one of us is that beautiful, beautiful swan. And I think the other thing that came out today, we're absolutely not alone. There are so many organisations out there, so many individuals. I am very blessed to travel this great world of ours, and wherever I go, this profession never ceases to amaze me that we all show up for each other and we all share expertise. So we need to continue doing that. So there was a theme of the C's, I think. We spoke about going from a culture of compliance to care, and the words I heard most frequently through this session was compassion, collaboration, curiosity, clarity, commitment, communication, competence and capability, and I think most important, that co-creation, and that we're stronger together to deliver that culture of care. I think if I had to leave you with one thought from me on a call for action, it's presence. We're in this world of technology, everybody's lives is on the phone, there's so much challenge and busyness around us, and yet one of my favourite quotes is the greatest gift we can give each other is our presence. And I think that is my call for action for you guys. If we're trying to get people to show up for each other, notice when something isn't right. We can't do that when we're looking in our phone, when we're thinking about the next meeting. So if you're truly engaging in a meeting or being with somebody, be present and show up for them. We thank you for your presence today, and back to our amazing chair. Huge thank you to Marilyn, who stepped in really late in the day and has done an amazing job.
Thanks, Dee. Now, I'm not going to actually ask for any questions because we finished a little bit early. If you have questions of our esteemed panel, you can talk to them. But what I would like to do is take a photo. Because you all stayed around or you came into our session late, you get the honour of being in our photo. So what I was hoping that I could get the audience members to do is just to come and sit in the first couple of rows, but just in between these camera points here. So if you could just move into that space for me. And my esteemed panel members, if you could come down and stand in front, and I'll get my little phone here. Don't trip over the camera cords, please. No, hang on, let me see what we need. Oh, I think standing will be good from the audience. All right, and I think the staff members can come in. If you want to, you can come in to make it look like there's more people at our presentation. Come in. They don't. Please, great, thank you so much. Come on in. It looks like a whole 20 people now. All right, 1, 2, 3, safety. 1, 2, 3. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. There will be another presentation with a very similar content on the profession and how we can improve on Friday at 2, I believe. So, thank you. Sorry? 4 p.m. Thank you.
ハブラー先生、どうもありがとうございました。そしてスピーカーの皆様もありがとうございました。Thank you very much, Dr. Havne and all speakers. Thank you very much once again. 以上もしまして本日のプログラムは終了でございます。